Hey there and welcome back. In this video about the Mini Apprentice, I'm going to go over some additional details about the DXe radio that came with it. First off, it's a great radio. I think it's a great way for Spektrum and Horizon Hobby to introduce people who buy this for the first time to a really good Spektrum radio. I bought this Spektrum radio, the DXe radio, a couple of months ago, and you have seen it in some other videos that I've done, the Champ, I think, for one, and it works pretty well. What I discovered about the one that came with the Mini Apprentice is they're not exactly the same as the one you buy for $60. This I bought for $60 several months ago. This is the one that came with it. What's different is the following. There's no switches here, and there's no switch here, okay, on the top. So there's 3 switches that are missing. So on the one I bought several months ago, you have an additional aux switch, 2-position switch. You have a 3-position flap switch here, and over here you have a wireless bind button, okay. So the wireless trainer bind allows you to bind another Spektrum radio to this wirelessly. You do it just like you do other binding in a wireless, like a DX6. You can you start the bind process here. You turn on the radio and as a normal bind mode, and it works. And I've done that. So those 3 switches are missing from this. So a couple of days ago I took the Mini Apprentice out to fly. I guess it was 3 days ago now, and started flying it with the one that came with it. Okay, then I decided, well, what if I bind this to it? Okay, this is the one that I bought several months ago. And recall in here that there's a bind plug, okay? This is a bind, so to make it more convenient for you to bind a radio to this, this is sitting in the bind channel, and you have to put the regular bind connector in it. I don't have one handy, but you know what it looks like. Came with the airplane. This small little JR connector. It's actually a jumper, so I decided I would go ahead and bind this to this. Worked fine. Everything worked. The 3-position switch here was beginner, intermediate, advanced. These switches had no function. And then this worked as the throttle cut. The low and high rates worked, and everything else worked fine. So I said, okay, that's nice. Can I use the wireless bind to bind these 2 radios together? Guess what? That worked too. Now, actually, before I did this, I did one other thing. The first thing I did was, before I bound the other one to this, I use this in a wired buddy box mode, because that's what they say in the instructions is, you want a buddy box with this, it's fine, stick a wire in the back. Okay, so there's a wire port right there, wire port right there. It worked fine. Okay, and so what the conclusion I've drawn is, these things are not quite identical, but close enough. If I were going to use a DXe radio with this airplane, I would use this, the one that is the wireless, with the wireless bind button. Even though these flaps and aux switches don't work, understand why, because it doesn't have flaps. The aux channel is the panic button, and the gear channel is assigned to the 3-position switch here and there. And so these 2 are interchangeable from the standpoint of this airplane. Now, they wouldn't be, obviously, if you had an airplane with flaps or other things, but they are interchangeable. So I could fly it with this, and this is the buddy box, or I could fly it with this, and this is the buddy box. Okay, Then I made one more thing. I also tested to make sure my standard Spektrum radio, which is a DX18, I bound it to this. It flew fine. Took this in a wireless connection between this and my DX18. It flew fine as a buddy box. And if you want to learn a little bit more about DXe programming, I made a video in the video series that's called Electric Micros. So if you go to my playlist in my YouTube channel here, go to my playlist and you'll see a playlist called Electric Micros, and in there's a video starting with MA20, and that's the DXe transmitter programming with the iPhone. And in there I show how I program this with my iPhone and the app that they have for it. I'm certain that over time, I'm certainly hoping over time, Spektrum improves that programming app on the iPhone. I would like to see a few more features. Features like being able to select which switch does what. Okay. And being able to assign a channel to a switch. And things like that, because this is a 7-channel radio. It's a pretty good radio. Obviously they don't want to give away too much because they want you to buy a DX6 or something more expensive, but I'm sure they'll improve it in certain ways. Most important of which is if you want to have a different setup in terms of the expo or dual rates and so forth. Those are certainly doable. I haven't tried how effective they are in these yet, but that's something I'll probably do. So right now this is programmed on my DX18. I do have a student that recently has started with the club, and I'm going to use the DX18. He's going to use this one here, but I might let him use this one because from that standpoint they're interchangeable. So this will be a great buddy box with my DX18. These two together make a great buddy box pair if that's what you want to do. In that video I was telling you about, it explains how the extra connectors that connects to the iPhone. This connects to the back of the transmitter, and explains about how that works. I'll add one more point about the programming and radios for the Mini Apprentice. In the manual on page 20 of the manual here, it shows all the things you have to do to bind a different radio, obviously Spektrum radio, to this. I followed it exactly as it said. It worked fine, so I'm not going to bother to go through the programming of how to do that. But it has virtually all the old and new types of radios in there. Obviously the DXe radio, the DX6i, the 6, 7, new generations of 7, new generation 8, 9, 10, and 18. So all those programs are virtually the same, and in any case, and so programming any other Spektrum radio with this computer type radio with a display on it will be the same no matter which transmitter you pick. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.